Near 50 years have gone by since a poor, plain babe was born in a log hut on the banks of a small stream known as the Big South Fork of Nolan's Creek. This was in Kentucky and in what is now Larue County. It was Sunday, February 12, 1809, when this child came to bless the world. The hut, not much more than a cowshed, held the father and mother, whose names were Thomas and Nancy, and their girl child, Sarah. These three were the first who saw the strange, sad face of the boy, who, when he grew to be a man, was so great and good and did such grand deeds that all the world gave most high praise to him. The folks from whom the father came were first known in America in 1618. They came from England at that time, and made a home at Hingham, Massachusetts. They bore a good name, went straight to work, had health, strength, thrift, and soon tracts of land for their own. All the long line of men from whom this babe came bore biblically names. The first in this land was Samuel. Then came 2 Mordecais. Next was John, then Abraham, then Thomas, who was the father of that Kentucky boy. Though there was room for hosts of men in Massachusetts, yet scores left that state and took up land in New Jersey. Mordecai Lincoln, with his son John, went to Freehold, New Jersey. They made strong friends there and had a good home. When more land was wanted, Mordecai left his son in New Jersey for a while, and went to the valley of the Schuylkill in Pennsylvania, where he took up a large tract of land. John Lincoln, the son, joined his father. Latter. Near their farm was that of George Boone, who had come from England with 11 children. One son of George had great love for the woods, the song of the birds, and camp life. He was Daniel Boone, the great hunter. The men on Pennsylvania farms thought it best to buy land on the other side of the Potomac, so the Lincolns went into the valley of the Shenandoah and took up tracts on lands which had been surveyed by George Washington. The Boones went to North Carolina. When John Lincoln's firstborn son, Abraham, born in Pennsylvania, came of age, he left his Virginia home and went to see the Boones in North Carolina. Here he met the sweet Marie Shipley, whom he wed. Daniel Boone told them that there was a fine land beyond the mountains. Boone and 3 more men had found a gateway in the mountains in 1748. They named it Cumberland Gap, in honor of the Duke of Cumberland, Prime Minister to King George. They found rich soil on that other side of the mountains, and the haunts of the buffalo and deer. Boone got up a band of 2 score and 10 men in 1775 and made a settlement at a spot to which he gave the name of Boonesborough, in what is now Kentucky. When the War of the Revolution came, the Indians had arms and shot, which had been given to them by the British. The red men fought hard for the lands where they were wont to hunt. The white men had to build forts and watch the foe at all points when they went forth to clear or till the ground. Still, more and more folks went to Kentucky. Of these, in 1778, were Abraham Lincoln and his wife, Marie Shipley Lincoln. With them were their 3 boys, Mordecai, Josiah and Thomas, the last a babe in the arms of his mother. From their North Carolina home, on the banks of the Yadkin, this group made a trip of 500 miles. The end of their route was near Beargrass Fort, which was not far from what is now the city of Louisville, Kentucky. A sad thing came to the Lincolns in 1784. Abraham with his 3 sons went out to clear the land on their farm. A squad of Indians was near. At the first shot from the brush, the good father fell to the earth to breathe no more. The 2 older boys got away, but Thomas, the third son, was caught up by a savage, and would have been taken off had not a quick flash come from the eldest boy's gun as he fired from the fort, aim at a white ornament on the Indian's breast, and kill him at once. It was the way of those days that the firstborn son should have what his father left. So all went to Mordecai. Josiah and Thomas had to make their own way in the world. Young Thomas, at 10 years of age, was at work on land for small pay. As he grew in strength, he took up tools, put by his coin, and, at last, could buy some land of his own. When he was a man grown, he wed Nancy Hanks, who made a good and true wife for him. He built a hut for her near Elizabethtown. In a year's time, the first child, Sarah, was born. 2 years went by, and as there was but small gain and scarce food for 3, there, the Lincolns went to Big South Fork, put up a poor shack, or rude hut of 1 room. The floor was not laid, there was no glass for the window and no boards for the door. In this poor place Abraham Lincoln, too, first saw the light. The mother, Nancy Hanks, when she came to be the wife of Thomas Lincoln, was 63 years old. She was tall, had dark hair, good looks, much grace, and a kind heart. It is said that at times she had a far-off look in her eyes, as if she could see what others did not see. She had been at school in her Virginia home, could read and write, and had great love for books. She knew much of the Bible by heart, and it made her glad to tell her dear ones of it. The brave young wife did all she could to help in that poor home. The love she had for her babes kept joy in her heart. Her boy was very close to her. As she looked into his deep eyes, she seemed to know that child was born for grand deeds. As he learned to talk, his mother hid his sayings in her heart, but few friends who were near her, how she felt about that son. But she had too much to do to dream long. As Thomas was much from home, the young wife had to leave her babes on a bed of leaves, take the gun, go out and bring down a deer or a bear, dress the flesh, and cook it at the fire. She used skins for clothes, shoes, and caps. All the time it was toil, but love kept the work less hard. As the boy, Abraham, grew in strength and health, his eyes turned to his mother for all that made life dear. In after years he often said, "All that I am I owe to my mother." There was no door to the Lincoln hut, so the mother hung up a bear skin as a shield from the cold, and pressed her babe to her breast as the chill wind swept in between the logs. At the fire on the hearth the corn cake was baked and the bacon fried. Game was hung up in front of the fire, and turned from time to time, that it might all be brown and crisp. When free from toil the mother taught her lad and lass, and the good man, too, that it might make him more than he was to her, to himself, and to others. The truths the mother gave out sank deep in the heart of her boy. And in due time they put forth shoots which grew to a great size, and were of use to the world. For years went by, and then the Lincolns took a better farm at Knob Creek, built a cabin, dug a well, and cleared some land. The new home was but a short way from the patch on the side of that hill on Nolan's Creek, but a good farm might have been made there if Thomas Lincoln had been a man who would stay in one place, and work the soil year in and year out. He had not the pluck to keep a farm up to the mark. When Abraham was 5 years old he often went with his folks 3 miles from home to a place called Littley Mound. A log house had been built there, and a man found whose name was Reverend David Elkins, and who was glad to come a long way through the woods to preach from the Word of God. The small boy soon had a great love for that good man. the ways of the child. Drew the preacher to him, and they were soon fast friends. Ere long one came by who said he could teach all the folks to spell and read. A class was made up, and, strange to say, the 5-year-old Abraham stood at the head of it. His mother had taught him. She, also, had told him to be kind and good to all. There were soldiers on the road from time to time, going home from the War of 1812. One day the young child saw one near him when he held in his hand a string of fish he had just caught. He gave all his fish to the soldier.